between A and B. A will write a front end, B needs to write a back end. Now, A thinks it's not my job to do all sorts of validation of the authentication, the credentials validation. Backend developer thinks front-end developer is going to do. Now, in this approach, where exactly you're going to identify that is a bug? In a QA. Let's say after 3 months down the line, when you build the entire application, the entire front end, the back end, the database, one fine day, once it goes to QA after 3 months, you identify things are not working. So that's exactly the biggest drawback where people used to have in early days, where software development used to take years. Like if you talk about in 1990s, the software used to build. Currently, the same complex software has been built with a fast scale, right? There's a difference in that thing. That difference is the way things are being structured, things have been set up, and DevOps has been adopted. That's a fundamental difference you see. The things which was done previously versus things have been done now. Java used to be there, Python used to be there, .NET used to be there, right? Those all languages used to be there, which were there in early 20s, 2000s, and what is now. So what has been changed? The way people have organized themselves more. So that's a traditional way of people looking around that thing. Now, let me tell you all of these people on the call always heard a phenomenon called as production deployment. I think more people, rather than fasting, they get sick because of production deployment. I know it's a joke. Whenever you talk about, hey, no, I can't take a vacation. I have a production deployment. No, I can't go with my family out. I have a production deployment. I can't enjoy an IPL because I have a production deployment. But why do you need to panic about this production deployment? You're not going on a mask. Elon Musk is not sending you on a mask, so you don't know whether you're going to get an oxygen or not there, right? So because the problem is, you don't even know that are you properly following the DevOps practices or not. One fine day you just wake up and you start playing with a live wire, then for sure you're going to get scared because live wires are dangerous. But if you start playing that live wire with proper sorts of safety measures, proper sorts of insulations, proper sorts of backup, then you won't get scared, right? That's exactly what you can think of life as a DevOps, where someone is standing with a live wire and you don't even know whether it's going to, what is going to be the next stage around that, right? Or it may work fine in dev, and then one fine day you just take an privilege to move it to prod, and this is what happens. It just blasts out, it just burns because there is no proper coordination, no proper testing, no proper log monitoring, and then you have to spend hours and hours, middle of the night, look into it, just fix all the stuff, right? This is all signs of, if you think this is what you're doing as of today, let me tell you, then you're not, even though if you have DevOps, you're not adopting the right practice of DevOps. That's why you still have that panic of production deployment. I do understand that there are certain cases where you need to have that scare of production deployment because it's exactly going live. But if you do have proper testing, proper DevOps culture, proper right skills, then you should not have been panicked. That's exactly the scenario what people generally go around when they don't have the right DevOps or they don't even have DevOps, both of the scenario. Now let's exactly understand. This was from a perspective of a developer. Myself putting in a shoe of a developer, if I talk about, then this is what I always think. But let me put into my head of a business, right? Mostly, let's say, a CFO or CEO or any kinds of CTO. If I put that head of leadership, how exactly, why leadership are always open for DevOps? Most of the cases, you will always see people or leadership will get scared to move to the cloud. But when it comes to DevOps, everyone looks forward, whether it's a data science, whether it's a data architect, whether it's a software architect, or even a CTO. Everyone we want to be a DevOps driven industry. Why? What is the problem? If I put it from a business perspective, more from a technical and business mixed blend perspective. So the problem which you see is eightfold. First, building and maintaining of servers. Now here I am not specifically talking about the cloud. I'm talking about in general sense, building and maintaining the servers. You're not having any sorts of automation. You don't even know what application has been installed. You don't even have any sorts of testing. For sure, it's going to take time to build and maintain the servers. Second, there are no kinds of environment management. Now, you don't even know how exactly you need to do the environment management. It's all over the place. You don't even know how many servers, how many resources, how exactly the resources have been connected. You have no idea about it. Next, you have the entire slow deployment, right? The slow deployment is the entire thing is very slow because you don't have any sorts of proper documentation, no proper automation, no proper understanding how things have been going. no proper collaboration. As I talk about the previous post slide, there's no proper collaboration, no interaction. So it's all over the place. No proper configurations or management. Now, as I take the slow deployment, right? The same thing. Byproduct, you don't even have proper documentation and all. So that's what exactly it happens, right? It's going to be all over the place, right? Then you have deployment as a blocker. Now, deployment, as I was talking about, right? When it comes to deployment, technically that's exact the case. Now, deployment as a blocker is that means you don't have a proper right tools, right methods, right kinds of documentation. That becomes a problem. Production downtime and a kind of a security threat. Now, security threat, everyone do understand how exactly security threats are all over the place. Some may even ask me how exactly security has to do anything with DevOps. We'll understand in the next slides, in upcoming slides, how exactly security has to do with DevOps. Not fully, but do partially how exactly DevOps can help to get you the foundation part of it. There, because of this 8 problems, the things that bites any sorts of business layers is the same thing. Not effective use of resources. The cost is very higher to implement, increase in time to market, and labor some process. So these are the more 4 things where in order to do the same stuff, instead of taking 5 people, you need 50 people of team, which ultimately will cost you more time required to reach out to more because there is no coordination and all. And it's a very cumbersome process. That's why any business guy, when you talk about the DevOps, they're very open and looking forward to apply the DevOps. And what do you achieve? Like, I mean, before we start really understanding the tools and the methods about the DevOps, let me walk you through what's exactly DevOps, right? As we saw, DevOps is not like a tool you get from the market, subscribe, purchase the tool, put it in your company, install it, and it will just give you the fine code. It's not that the case, right? DevOps is a fundamental change, a philosophy, right? How your company used to operate and how things work. It's a fundamental philosophy. You can't come up that, okay, hey, no, I have purchased 10 different tools. I just installed 10 different tools and that makes my company DevOps driven. Most of the company makes that mistake. That's why you get panic when you move to the production. It's a fundamental philosophy, culture, methodology change in any organization. Because it's not just coming and purchasing tools. It's about how you even organize your employees, right? If you split the 2 words of DevOps, developer and ops. So development team as well as operational team collaborate together and build something as an unified team, cross-trained team. That's exactly is DevOps all about. So it's not just something that you get the tool and it will work fine, right? So that's one fundamental mistake. Every people do it when it comes to setting up the DevOps. It's not a kind of just a process change or tools and method change. It's a fundamental methodology or culture change in your organization. That's one thing. And second thing is what exactly the secret sauce DevOps brings on table. Now, previously also people used to do build, people used to test, and people used to release the software. This is not a new term, right? These are terms do exist from 30, 40 years. But what DevOps brought new in the place? DevOps brought 2 things. If I summarize it in one word, which is called as a feedback loop, right? If you can see here, there is a feedback loop that DevOps has brought into it. That feedback loop is broken down into 2 parts, plan and monitor. Now, what exactly you do have is you do have different ceremonies. Now, you'll see nowadays, like there will be many people who would have spent like 10 years, 15 years in industry. Previously, you used to have stand up. Someone randomly comes up, gives an update, put it on the or put it on the email, and done. But now you always see that whenever you move to any organization, there's one common question: which project management are you using? Do you know what is stand up? Do you know what is Scrum? What is Agile? Like why people has frequently like all of a sudden has started moving to Agile? Not because they will become like a very smart or they'll get all the people trained. No, right? Because they can plan. One of the thing where you see is fundamentally DevOps, as I was talking about, will change all the segments, not just the technology, but even from a project management perspective, you can't run waterfall model with DevOps. That's too abnormal combination you will try to fit in one box. DevOps will always go hand in hand with agile project management. I'll talk about why exactly that case is also, right? Now, let's talk about the fundamental thing, but I'll also explain how exactly agile helps you to adopt DevOps as a culture. But what DevOps brings into is a plan, the retrospective, right? What you can do is you can retrospect how things have been going. You have proper ceremonies, proper more collaboration where you have a scrum master whose responsibility is to collaborate people, get them into one roof in the current situation, get them into one meeting room, virtual, make them talk, make them understand who's doing what, whose responsibility is what. That's the plan. And then it's a monitor. Just make the production deployment and you can go back home. For sure, everyone wants to do that. But end of the day, someone needs to really monitor. Now that monitor can be some human in loop or some tools in loop or some methodology, which is subjective based on the type of application. But you need to monitor and understand, right? Where are you? I mean, retrospective is more important in terms of your processes, in terms of your system. That's the secret sauce what DevOps brought on the table. So if next time people do ask you what DevOps has written in the table, nothing. It's just plan and monitor. Those are the two things which summarize to feedback loop. DevOps works in a framework. Now, most of the people don't even know. They always feel DevOps is just okay. You get some DevOps, you hire some DevOps engineer, you learn how cloud works, you get into Agile. Let me tell you, okay, fine, you're doing that out, but you're missing the foundational ethics of DevOps. DevOps works in this 5-pillar framework: culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing. So this exactly, irrespective of what tools, technology you're using, are you an MNC, are you a startup or a small scale business, doesn't matter. In order to adopt the right DevOps, these are the 5 things which you need to do, which will cut across technology, fundamental methodologies or processes, as I was talking about, right? Culture. So as I talk about very clearly, DevOps is not just a game of tool sets. It's a cultural change. Culture in terms of how you organize your team, how you make them cross-scale team, right? How you increase the collaboration with them. Automation. How do you train your people to have more sorts of automation skills, programming, AWS automations or other cloud automations, external tools, automation. Lean. How do you more lean on the processes? Just don't have the processes documented for sake of doing it. How do you rigorously adapt it? Measurements, monitor it. And at the last, you do is sharing, retrospect, give your feedback, talk to the team, give very transparent feedback to the people that, okay, hey, no, this is what exactly we could have done better. Not you could have done better. We could have done better. So that's exactly what the DevOps is all about, right? Now, this is more about from a understanding perspective, what exactly the DevOps can help you. If I put more, again, go back to our technology hat, this is how exactly DevOps work, right? Where you have developer, repository code, build, testing, artifact repository, and all this stuff, right? Now, this exactly your DevOps would help you, that it will help you to give a feedback loop. And if we talk about the same practice, same 5-pillar, how exactly those 5-pillar do help you is infrastructure as a code, microservices, continuous integration, continuous deployment, collaboration, communication, and monitoring logging. Now, I mentioned, right, that, okay, DevOps works hand in hand with Agile because both do work on a thumbnail principle is make small changes, repeatable testing, and continuous delivery. If you see if you go back, if there is any scrum master on the call or project manager, he would agree with my thought that Agile also works on the same principle. Agile don't ask you that you write the entire monolithic 1,000 lines of code and then you do it. Agile also tells you be very smart, write small modules, check out those modules, test it, and deliver it, right? Break down your entire projects into small modules. That's exactly what DevOps asks you. DevOps also mentioned the same thing. Don't write 10,000 lines of code and do and test, right? You're not sitting in monolithic way or 1990s. Make small code, make repeatable pattern, make things automated, and reduce the burden from everyone. So that's why DevOps and Agile project management is a blend combination which help any organization to move with a fast scale in the market. Now let's understand what benefits you get. So I was talking about, this is how which you adapt on the left side, like your I mean, you have the right kind of tools, processes, feedback loop and all with proper practices. This is what, as a business perspective, you get a high speed operation, rapid delivery, rapid delivery, increased reliability, high scalability, enhanced security, and better collaboration. This is exactly opposite of what people don't get when they do DevOps and they do get when they apply DevOps, right? So this is pretty common. I mean, this is very transparent that you get a high speed of delivery, better quality of software, better reliability, and you can reach out to the fastest pace in the market. Everyone wants to deploy their product ASAP. If you can do it in 1 week, they want to do it in 1 day from a business perspective. So that's exactly what DevOps can help you to do the things in a right shape, right manner, which ultimately gives you the business benefits. Now, how exactly a DevOps cycle look like when it comes to the AWS? So I think now we do understand how exactly is DevOps, why DevOps what you should do for DevOps. Now let's get our AWS hat on it. What AWS do provides when it comes to DevOps. So technically, this is how your entire thing, what we talk about, your build, your release, there are like multiple steps with it, right? How those get squeezed into a couple of services when it comes to AWS. So AWS do provide services called as CI/CD for CI/CD code commit, which is like a code repository, code build for building, code deploy, and code pipeline for the entire visual workflow. So this is how the normal DevOps cycle look like, any release cycle look like when it comes to AWS. Now, this is very simple version. You can make it more complicated, like deploying this pipeline across different accounts, different environments, dev, prod, QA, those kinds of stuff, right? Different approval stage, different testing. We can all take it up in the next session, but the more important thing is what is fundamental. This is the fundamental. Now you can enhance this, advance this, all sorts of, I agree. This is a very basic version, but this is what will help you to understand as a starting curve. Now, the important thing is why you should use AWS when it comes to DevOps, right? Someone may ask me later on, hey, why are you promoting AWS? The best idea of AWS is not only just give you the entire development tool set, but with the right sets of platform. You want serverless, it can work with the CI/CD pipeline. You want Kubernetes, it can also blend with this. You are not very technology. You need something which can come out of the box. Then there is a beanstalk to take care of it. There is CloudFormation as an infrastructure as a code. If it comes from Ansible background, then there is an ops work for it. Or you need some proper logging monitoring. There is CloudWatch, CloudTrail. So AWS not only just provides you CI/CD or just kinds of different services, it provides entire ecosystem which you can blend. And that ecosystem is very subjective, like a Lego brick. I always use a word when I refer AWS as a Lego brick. It's on you how exactly you build that or construct that building as per your use case. AWS gives you right tools, right method to implement it. Now it's on you in what scenario you select what particular services. But that's exactly how it blends the different DevOps services in terms of your entire EC2 and other stuff. Now, someone may also ask if you have an exposure, there are services like Jenkins, there are services like GitLab CI, there are services like Bamboo, there's services and many more. These services do also exist, right? Then why do you only promote AWS? Because these services do exist, but you need to set up the proper security, proper monitoring, proper logging, and as well as the operational part of the services do exist. If I talk about these services which are on my screen currently in blue icons, all this are managed services, free at cost, and with proper security and log monitoring out of the box. Now, if AWS takes care of it, then I don't know why other people will look forward for other services, because then you only focus your DevOps rather than worrying about the tools, how to monitor the tools, how to make it operationalize. So that's the advantage of the services or adapting to the services. Now let's quickly jump and quickly talk about the different services what AWS provides, right? So we can quickly move to the stop the theoretical part and move towards the hands-on. So there are a bunch of services. In short, there are 200 plus services AWS provides. A couple of them are for machine learning, a couple of them for data analytics, a couple of them IoT, gaming, blockchain, right? All the services I'm keeping outside for now. I will only focus on the services which is required from a DevOps perspective. Again, there might be certain services which I would have skipped even from DevOps standpoint because they might not be required for now. They might be required for later sessions, right? So considering the scope for today's session, I've divided the services into 4 layers: continuous integration, continuous delivery, infrastructure and automation, monitoring and security, and platform as a service. So if you start and understand all of the services which is currently on my screen and you have very hands-on knowledge, you can call yourself that I am DevOps. I do have DevOps capability too on AWS very freely, very confidently if you have an hands-on knowledge, because this services will allow you to cover any scenarios, any perspectives, anything what you want to do. Whether you're making machine learning, like many people always talk about things like ML ops, data ops, DevOps, right? DevOps has been bifurcated into multiple ops kind, right? Now, I've recently heard something called as AI ops. Okay, so many people are doing and blending that ops word with the particular domain. Again, there is no right, wrong kind of a thing. All makes sense. But fundamental is DevOps will always be a DevOps. How many different flavors and colors you remove and keep adding on it doesn't matter. But the core is the DevOps. Once you are a DevOps engineer, Many ops you can by default take it very easily. That's nothing new. So we'll focus heavily on these services which are on our screen, right? And we'll understand how exactly the services will help you. Again, I'll quickly fast track a couple of services where I feel those are maybe very basic or very advanced, which is not required to start your journey on AWS. But again, if you have any specific questions around those services, don't hesitate, put it in the chat. I will answer them at the end of the session. So we'll start in the same sequence. We'll start first with the CI/CD, okay? Continuous integration, continuous delivery. Some people may also say continuous deployment, okay? I will explain you why it is delivery or what is exactly deployment. But first we'll focus into CodeComit, CodeBuild, and CodePipeline. Intentionally, I have not used one service which was in my previous screen, which was CodeDeploy, and I have moved it into the automation. That also I'll explain you in the demo section why I have done that. So quickly talking about CodeComit, you people will be using it or not, but you would have heard things like GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, and those kinds of different code repository. AWS provides their own code repository, which is free of cost, well integrated with securities and monitoring, logging, and other kinds of AWS services, as well as AWS Devops Services, which is called as CodeComit. Everything what you can do on GitLab, Bitbucket, and all, similarly what you can do in CodeComit, which maybe, let's say, generating an SSH keys, having a proper monitoring, having a proper branch restriction, notification on pull push, any sorts of additional rule-based merge and all, those all things what you can do at free of cost. So that's what the beauty of this CodeComit services. There is no limitations around the same, right? And it's very managed. AWS takes care of the management and all of the stuff. You don't have to spin up any server, do some enterprise installation and make it available across your organization. That's not required. You can do the same thing. And the best part, which personally I do like about this particular service, is the under benefits, it well integrates with IAM. Now, in case of GitLab and all, either you have to enable single sign-on if it is enterprise. If it is SaaS offering, then you need to have the username and password or some other approach. In case of CodeComit, the beauty is that it well integrates with AWS IAM service, identity and access management. So you don't have to do over and above. Once you have set up the IAM, provide the right access, that's it. You don't have to have additional layers to take care of that thing. So that's the beauty of CodeComit, which I do like a lot about it. Outside encryption and all, which is common. I mean, there's nothing new which this service provides, which other partners are not providing. The second is CodeBuild. Many people would have heard something called as Jenkins. Jenkins is an open source kind of a platform which runs on Ubuntu or Linux, which help you to do kind of build process, entire pipeline and all. It's open source. So what exactly CodeBuild provides with Jenkins is not providing. So Jenkins is an open source, but if you remember, I have played a lot with Jenkins for 3 years. Even I'm Jenkins certified. I do love Jenkins as well as CodeBuild. The only slight advantage of CodeBuild, which I see, is CodeBuild is very good when it comes to not managing the infrastructure. CodeBuild runs on a Docker and containerized, which we'll see when we are doing the demonstration. You don't have to spin up any server. AWS will take care on behalf of you. And cost-wise also, it's very flexible. So you don't have to pay the cost and other stuff. That's an advantage, and it's a managed service, so it will scale as per your requirement. That's one thing. Second, the best part of CodeBuild is, let's say you have been using Jenkins for almost, let's say 5 years, 10 years kind of things. You can also integrate Jenkins in the CodeBuild. So there's no restriction that you need to use only containerized environment. Even if you have Jenkins in place, you can get the Jenkins also along with it. So that's the other part. Rest things remain the same. You can get the code from GitHub, from your CodeComit. You can do testing and those kinds of stuff, proper monitoring, proper traceability. Those all things remain the same. There is no difference what other vendors can provide, what CodeBuild can't. CodePipeline. What exactly is the CodePipeline? CodePipeline is a simple, if I talk about a visual workflow, it wraps all different services of AWS like source, build, test, deploy, and put a visualization wrapper around it. So that way you can make it very easy. You can monitor it, you can look into it, and it can be all scripted with the programming language, which will look into it, right? There's a build spec file, which you will be using to define your different stages and all. It's very simple. You don't have to worry a lot about it. It's written in YAML fashion. So it's very easy and simple to use. But the whole advantage is from that visual workflow, you can easily identify where exactly it got failed, what it got failed, how you can troubleshoot and all. So that's about CodePipeline. And that's where the three services. Now we talk about the infra and automation. As I was talking about, I put CodeDeploy as a part of the automation. Once you get more understanding of AWS services, you might say that why CodeDeploy under automation not? It's a subjective and perspective of everyone, but I feel it should be more under automation, which we'll talk about when you're doing the demonstration. CloudFormation, every people sitting on this call would have been knowing a couple of things: S3, EC2, Lambda, CloudFormation. Even if you're very new on AWS, these are the four services everyone know about it. CloudFormation was released, if I go back to start of my career, it was released in 2015. 2015 reinvent CloudFormation was being started somewhere, right? 2015 reinvent or 2014 reinvent, sorry, my bad. 14 reinvent. This was been prime time kind of a service which AWS released. Infrastructure as a code. As the name suggests, infrastructure, whatever the infrastructure you have, which can be spinning an EC2 instance, spinning a Lambda, spinning a SageMaker, you can code it and you can store it. The best part, as I was talking about, right, many people call it as a DevOps, MLOps, AI ops, right? Those kinds of different ops. Why exactly they call it as a ops and how DevOps is a fundamental? Because anything that you do infrastructure, you do automation. That is the core. Infrastructure automation, log monitoring, security. These three are the core of all the ops. You go with ML ops, you will see these three principles. You go with data ops, you will see these three principles. AI ops, three principles. And these are the core thing, which is exactly what DevOps will help you to set up. Now, MLOps is more about how you enable data scientists to do their work with ease and awe, very skilled, right? Where you see MLOps platform and all those things. Data ops, how ETL pipeline can be more robust, more scalable, log monitoring, and those kinds of things. So all those things you see that is summarized into this thing, this specific DevOps, where you get these three learnings out of it. So CloudFormation, if you go back, it's infrastructure as a code. Anything you want to automate, code, or understand your infrastructure, that is what you can do. We will see a demo around CloudFormation, so I'll quickly rush around that, but you will understand how exactly or why it is important to use CloudFormation. So CloudFormation not only helps from an automation perspective, it also becomes your run book, documentation. Documentation in sense of, let's say there are 15 applications you are installing in server. Now all those 15 applications, you put it as a part of your infrastructure as a code. So that code becomes your documentation. Now you don't have to explain people what you are doing it, neither you have to remember in your head what you're doing it, because that's already part of the code. What you have coded will get deployed on the server. So that also another way of thinking CloudFormation is more from a documentation perspective of it. And again, CloudFormation as a service is free from AWS. Any resources which you will deploy will get charged, right? So if you spin up an S3, you will get charged for S3, but not using for the CloudFormation. CodeDeploy. CodeDeploy is more from an automation perspective. As I was mentioning, right? The secret here of putting the service into this automation is it is an automation. If you have a continuous delivery, if you want to achieve a continuous delivery, right? Then you have to get into the CodeDeploy. Why? Because let's say you have an application, pushing that code into any code repository, testing it and integrating with your live code, that doesn't stop. I mean, your entire cycle doesn't stop there. You have to continuous even deliver that code into the different environments, dev, UAT, and other higher environments. CodeDeploy is that service which help you to release that different versions, right? Release it to a particular server, have different deployment strategy like blue, green, canary, those kinds of different deployment strategies. That's why it's an automated way of doing the deployments. That is the reason I have put it into the automation side of the stuff. Moving to the next part of it, right? The other services which have been there. Now, there are many other services which I have skipped. CloudWatch, CloudTrail, even like securities kind of thing. Because majorly I don't want to make it more theoretical session. I want to even do demonstration, which will take me 15-20 minutes. So I've intentionally kept the services. If I get the time, I'll talk about the services. But if not, then I'll try to directly show you on the console about the services so you do understand, right? But I want to go more towards console. So that's why I've kept theoretical part more streamlined, what is required for today's session. So majorly, we talk about the different AWS services like automation, the different kinds of continuous CI/CD kind of services. The three services which generally most of the people don't talk about is Cloud Shell, SDK, and CLI. These are the core services which is required. You are a software engineer, you're an ML engineer, you're a data engineer, you're a DevOps engineer, or a, let's say, cloud engineer. In some form, some shape, you are already using these three services. Let's understand what is Cloud Shell, SDK, and CLI. So this is exactly SDK, Software Development Toolkit. Any services which you're using, are you a front-end developer, you're a back-end developer, or let's say you are a Python, or you are an infrastructure guy, Ruby, Shell, Go, any services you need support in SDK so you can interact the APIs of AWS, right? So that's AWS do provides widely. Majority of the people uses Python. Again, that's my perspective. Some may also, I'm a Node.js developer, I'm Golang. I do respect all the developers, but most of the people I've seen use widely Python, and in that Python there is a Boto 3 is an SDK which people do use when it comes to Python to interact with AWS. And AWS SDK provides you the capability, whatever you can do from AWS console, similarly or more advanced function you can do with the SDK, SDKs and CLI. So that's about the SDK. SDK is more preferable for software developers or kind of a back-end, front-end, the developers, the coders, right? Which they can easily do, play around with help of the programming language. So this is how the sample look like. As I was talking about the Python, you can install a Boto 3, which is a Python SDK provided by AWS. This documentation is very good. The best documentation I've ever seen in my career of Boto 3. I've given the link also of Boto 3, so you can refer it, right? Once you receive this deck and the material. So it's very simple. Import the library, define the object of which AWS service you want to do, and then perform the action. The action can be as simple. This is just listing all the buckets in my given account. So this is the 3 steps. Now this can be very complex, but if you want to write a very basic code, these are the 3 steps you need to do. Import the library, create the object of the service, and perform the action which you want to. This is very simple. And in case of installation also, pip install Boto 3. If you're using Python, this is, you know that how to install this SDK, right? So this is very simple to do. Similarly, they do have the other SDKs. Other SDKs are also very simple to use, nothing complex, but this remains the same for other SDKs also. Install the library, initialize the object for that service, and then start performing the action. Cloud Shell. Now, many cases, many times, people needs to do a quick troubleshoot, right? Troubleshoot in sense of, let's say, you don't have a specific, they want, I mean, very simple of that. They want to get into a database and see whether the data, I mean, in a RDS instance, and want to see if there is a row or not. Ideally, you can do it in a local machine. Okay. But let's say you don't want to have, you don't have the permission to use your local machine. You don't have workspace and all this stuff, right? Second option, you can have EC2 instance. Now, I don't want to pay the cost and all, right? You have to pay the cost for EC2 instance for that, whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, set up all the tools and all. That exactly Cloud Shell comes into it. It's a predefined sandbox which you can directly access from the browser. No additional authentication required. Once you log in into the console, this is very integrated, tightly integrated with AWS console. Once you log in into the console, you can use the same console credentials to authenticate this thing. It already has CLI installed in it. You can directly start working around with whatever you need. It has a couple of limit. I mean, the only limitation is you can only use up to 1 gig. 1 GB, anything which you need for quick lookup, troubleshoot and all, which is more than suffice. If you need to do any data manipulation, then this is not the right service because it's 1 gig. You will run out of the memory and capacity. But if you need to look up, do some scan, build some code in Python and all then you can easily do it without worrying about the credential exchange and those kinds of stuff. So that's about Cloud Shell. CLI, if you're not a coder, if you're pure into a beginner on AWS and you want to still do it without getting into AWS console, then you can use CLI, command line interface. Like how do you do CMD in Windows, shell scripting in case of other Linux and Ubuntu kind of stuff, right? Similarly, you can use CLI. There are a bunch of commands which are there, which you can use and you can do the same thing. You can write the same thing what we have seen in Boto 3. Similarly, you can integrate or interact with all the services of AWS. Again, things remain the same. There are many services, many features which you can do with CLI, which you can't even do with the console. How to play around with the CLI. So this is the very simple thing. I've given this thing. Don't worry, don't need to write the commands. I will share this deck. I've already uploaded this deck in my GitHub repository. The link will be in the email, which will be, you guys will be getting. So this is the command like you need to install based on your operating system. You need to install the CLI, install that CLI, check, verify, And then you can do very simple, like I have given like S3LS and my bucket. This is as simple what you have to do with the CLI. And again, if you need to do more understanding, I've already have this link of CLI, which will help you to understand all the syntax across all the services. So quick link, so you don't have to go different places. You can start hands-on from day one itself once you have this tech. Now, finally, I will look into the AWS console, which I was waiting for more than like to talk about the demonstration, right? We have learned a lot of theories. So now everything what I can talk about the DevOps to start your journey, we have covered it up. What I'll do is I'll switch to another device and we will perform this action. I'll do a simple application which works with AWS recognition service. Now, the important part is not what is application and what is recognition service. The important part is how exactly I build the infrastructure and get the infrastructure live in next 10 minutes. In next 10 to 15 minutes, you will have a fully function CI/CD pipeline, a fully function application deployed, which will be real time. If you make a changes in GitHub, it will trigger and it will work. So that's the whole idea of this demonstration. Okay. What I'll do is, again, the code repository, the entire thing, right, which is required for this demo, which may be, let's say, cloud formations, the entire actions, what you need to play around doing the console and everything. All the stuff I've already shared in the presentation, right? As you see this presentation, the next steps, I've already mentioned the things, as well as I'll give the link of this GitHub repository where this demo is already hosted, right? The demo, this is a GitHub repository. This is the same link I'm going to give you guys, where you will get all those things as well as the deck, right? Which I'm just demoing, presenting to you guys. So you can follow the same steps and try to replicate the same thing at your end. Let's quickly start with the demonstration. So this is exactly my AWS console. I hope everyone is pretty much aware about the AWS console part of it. What I'll do at the first is I will go to the AWS Cloud Formation. So what we are going to do in AWS Cloud Formation is we will deploy a couple of prerequisites, right? Prerequisites for the people who are new. Before I explain what is Cloud Formation, I mean what exactly we'll do with Cloud Formation. For the folks who are doing it for the first time, this particular Cloud Formation and AWS console, I'll just go back. You would see, I mean, let's say you're spinning up the account, brand new account for the first time. You don't have an AWS account. Don't worry about it. I'll also share a link how to set up a free trial account. And when you log in for the first time, you won't see this recently visited services. This is, I play around a lot with AWS. That's what my job is. So that's why you see this recently visited services. But when you're logging in for the first time, how to get Cloud Formation? Directly type in the search bar, any service, not just Cloud Formation, any service which you need, just type in the search bar and you will see that particular service in the drop-down list. Do ensure you are in the right region. I always prefer Mumbai region, but even if you have North Virginia or any region, that's fine. The Cloud Formation which I'm giving you guys will work in all the regions. So that's fine. If you're in any part of the world, don't worry about it. I'm based out of India, so I'm using Mumbai region. If you're based out of US, you can use North Virginia, or you can use Canada or any other kind of region where you're comfortable. So you need to create, click on stack. So AWS provides a couple of template is ready, sample template and designer. So designer is something, let's say you are not coming from a technology background. You're very good with design and other stuff. Then how you can do it? Yes, don't have to worry about it. You can easily do it with help of your designer also. So you don't need to understand what is YAML, JSON, how exactly you can drag and drop the same kinds of entity UI you can get in the designer. I'll see if we have a time. I'll go through the designer also. But in our case, we do have a template ready. The template is in my local. So I'll go ahead and give my template from my local machine. You need to upload this template by selecting the local upload. Click next. And here you need to give the name of it. Rest, keep the same parameters as is. You don't have to worry about it. Click next. Okay, you can verify it and click next. This is a review screen where it's asking you that, okay, have you provided all of these parameters? We have left everything as default. And I click next, which is this checkbox is asking me that, okay, hey, you're given a permission for the IAM. Are you good with it? So I'm saying yes, because I know what I've given in my Cloud Formation. So this is exactly the CloudFormation console is. Now this CloudFormation will roughly take good amount of time, like almost like 5 to 10 minutes to get the entire infrastructure done. Let's quickly move to the template part. And what I'll do is I'll try to open this in the designer. So until our CloudFormation is getting ready, let me see if I can get it into designer. So this is how it looks like. How exactly, as I was talking about the blueprint, right? Any building blueprint, how exactly you can think of, right? Different floors, how exactly, where is your living room, where is your kitchen, the floor plan, which we always refer. This is exactly this floor plan is. You can design this floor plan according to you with using the services, different services on the left side. So these are different services which each of the function you can drag and drop here and you can play around with it. If we look into this services perspective, this is how the entire stack look like. Let me just close this window. So this is how what we will be doing. So this particular template, as I was talking about, will do everything in and out. Set up the VPC, the route table, the subnet and all. So this will not only help you to learn the CloudFormation template, but also if you have any sorts of, let's say, the entire setup of VPCs and all. So it's not will just randomly deploy the EC2 instance or default subnet. It will do everything. Route table, VPCs, internet gateway, route table, subnets, load balancer. It's an end-to-end application which is required, which you can use it. So that's why this template will help you not only for the demonstration, but even in your actual use case also. So this is how the different templates look like. As I mentioned, we have proper IAM roles and other stuff which has been there with proper private subnet, public subnet, those kinds of all sorts of best practices what we have taken care here. And this is how the designer look like. Now, as I was talking about, many times you need to document this stuff, right? People do draw it in draw.io or lucid chart or some other way. So you don't have to worry about it. You can easily download this particular screenshot also as a PNG file. So you can download this entire image, what I'm visualizing as my screen, and you can document this. So that's how CloudFormation first not only help you in terms of documenting your entire infrastructure. Now you don't have to remember in your head how exactly things are being connected since everything is already documented here, as well as you can save this image for any future reference or any documentation perspective. So that's how the beauty of the CloudFormation is. What I'll do, I'll go back and I'll see is my CloudFormation been there, it's ready. So this is how the CloudFormation different events look like, right? All the different events what we have done, it should be here by default been listed. This becomes your entire plan that how your events looks like. These are the resources list where you will see all the resources which I have deployed will be listed here. All sorts of IP addresses, EC2, route tables, and everything, all the resources. This output section will also have its value and it will be visible once my create is complete here. So once my create is complete, then you will see this will be visible automatically. What I'll do is in meantime, it's not complete yet. Looking at the time, this will take, I think, few more minutes. I will directly try to switch to the AWS console. So what I'll do is I'll open an AWS console, a new tab, and it'll search an EC2 here. So again, most of the time people don't follow the best practice of doing an SSH, logging into the server, right? Here also I've ensured that you are not using any sorts of PAM file and all those kinds of stuff. You can use a session manager for logging into the server. So the demo is almost a production grade demo, which you can leverage for your own particular office also if required. So this is the, we are into the machine without any sorts of PAM file or any kind of thing using a session manager itself. So you don't have to worry about if you don't know how to do SSH and all. That's also you don't have to panic. You just have to click on connect, use session manager, and you're there. What we're going to do, right? Until the CloudFormation is completed, I will verify whether my Node.js and CodeDeploy agent. So CodeDeploy needs an agent, whether those both agents have been running fine or not. So I'll go back to my presentation. In this slide 28, I've already given the commands also to verify. So first, before installing, I will run this command. I have copied the command, and as you can see, the CodeDeploy agent is already set up. We'll see the same thing with the Node.js. Node.js is not installed. So what we'll do is quickly install this. Again, someone may ask you why, when I'm saying you're using CloudFormation, you're already automating this stuff. Why are you doing this out manually? Why does CloudFormation can't do it for you? So again, that's a very good question. You should have asked this question. I'm doing it intentionally so I can walk you through, guys, how exactly you can play around with the EC2 instance. So everything, this entire thing, I've already added in my CloudFormation to take care of it. But intentionally, I'm doing this out manually so you guys understand how exactly even you want to do SSH in the server. Because there are many people when they're starting new, they don't know about it. So I've tried to cover up all the aspects which you guys need, right from installing the binaries to doing an SSH in the server. So that's one of the reason of doing it. But again, you guys are right. You can do it completely with the CloudFormation. So as we can see, when I was describing this stuff, you can see the npm. I've set up the npm. I've just copy paste all of these commands and just have pasted in the terminal, and my npm is there now. So I have my CodeDeploy is there. I have my npm is there. So you are good with your EC2 instance. I will terminate my EC2 instance now. Terminate means I will close my session. Okay. So this is how we can do it. You have to connect the instance, click on Session Manager tab and click on Connect. We'll go back to the, I'll close this window also. As you can see, the CloudFormation is finally completed successfully. I'll go to the output section and I'll click on this load balancer link. What you're seeing here, bad gateway. Why? Because I have not deployed my any application in that EC2 instance. Just now I've set up my node. I have my CodeDeploy agent. That's it. I don't have any application running. This verifies, okay? So I will close this link. We will now quickly jump onto another tab and we'll go back to our actual CI/CD processes. So this is a GitHub repository which I will connect with my particular pipeline, the CI/CD pipeline. First, I need to again search. You can directly search CodeBuild, or I'll select from my recently visited services. This is asking me to create a project. If you are pretty new, we'll create like create project where you need to provide. Okay. So this is how you're given a name to it. You have the entire options where you can connect. You can have S3, CodeComit, GitHub, GitHub Enterprise, or Bitbucket. GitLab is not supported yet. I'm using GitHub. I'm using my account. So CI, this is the repository which I'm using, the same one where I have my code. Next, you have to scroll down. You have to provide the environment where this needs to be executed. So I'm using Ubuntu. Runtime is standard. To ensure every time you have to select existing service rule because we have already deployed as a part of the CloudFormation. So you don't have to worry about all those stuff. Disable this because this means that this will modify your IAM role. We have already taken care of what's required. So that's why I'm disabling. I don't want CodeDeploy to take care of that. Then build spec. Either you can provide the build spec, but in our case, as you can see, the build spec code, I've already given this YAML file. I've already given here. This is my build spec file, which is in my GitHub repository. I've already given it. So I'm not explicitly providing it. I'm disabling the CloudWatch, but as I mentioned, you can have the CloudWatch S3 logs as well as, right? Sorry. Okay. So I have to select this image, which I missed it out. If I scroll down. So this is my build job has been done. Next, what I have to do is, as I mentioned, build, deploy. So I have to go to the deployment. Again, you can click on this get started. I'll do a deployment, the same name, CI, CD demo. Here we are using an EC2 instance. Again, you can see EC2, Lambda, ECS. We are using EC2. Now EC2 can be on the cloud, or even you can use this for your on-prem also. It need not to be that you can only use CI/CD of AWS if you only have EC2 instance or the VM server on AWS. No, you can also use it if you have anything running on-prem. The deployment group, right? I'm giving the same name. As I mentioned, I've already taken care of all the IAM roles. Deployment types can be blue, green, in place. We'll keep it in place. EC2 instance. Again, you can have auto scaling and you can have all those on-prem servers. I will use EC2 instance. Never, because we have already set up our CloudWatch Cloud Deploy agent. We don't need it. Enable load balancer, because this code deploy, how exactly it will verify whether the deployment was successful by pinging it to the particular server. So that's why the code deploy, we need to provide the load balancer is going to hit the endpoint. So this is our deployment ready. Last, we'll go to our pipeline now. So I'll click on the create pipeline. So we have done the build, we have done the deploy. Now I'll give a visual workflow. Again, do ensure you have to select the default one. Sorry. Always do ensure that you have to use the one which is in the drop down. Don't use the new one, existing role, and you have to select the CI/CD, click next. Under drop down, do ensure that you select the same one. So we have selected in the build as a GitHub. So you can use the same one. You have to connect to this. As you will click on this connect, this is what you have to confirm. So you don't have to pass any credentials, any kind of stuff. This will automatically take care of it. If you're already logged into your GitHub, then it automatically action will taken care. Since I'm already logged into it, then I'm fine. If not, then you have to log in and have that ready. And then you have to just click the auth. So this is the same repo which I gave in the build, same main branch. And this is very important thing. Whenever you make any new changes, the pipeline will automatically triggered. The change detection for that is GitHub Webhook or CodePipeline. It's always recommended you use GitHub Webhook. So whenever there is a change you make in GitHub, automatically the webhook will trigger. So provider, the same thing as I was talking about, you can have CodeBuild or Jenkins. We have done a CodeBuild and I'm already have configured the build job at the first. Same goes with the deployment. So I can have this many options, but I've already secured CodeDeploy for the deployment and I've already built an application name. And this is my deployment group and app name. Next, this is my pipeline look like. This is my pipeline setting. This is my source setting, my build stage, my deploy stage, and click on create pipeline. That's what you have to do. Like it took me almost less than 10 minutes to set up my entire pipeline. And this pipeline will take like for the first run, this will take like 3-4 minutes. This will do everything. Get the code, build the code, package the code. If you have some testing, it will do also the testing also in that, in the build stage. And finally, at the last, it will do a deployment, right? So what we'll do is we'll make a 2 run of it. This run was automatically done. So this will ensure the application will be there. So we saw 502 gateway error at the beginning, right? After this pipeline runs, you will see that the application will up and running, but there will be some magic in that application. So we might have to run the pipeline again. And that time you will see there will be the pipeline will be automatically been triggered. Kick off. When I just save the changes in the GitHub, the pipeline will be automatically triggered. That will show how exactly continuous integration and continuous delivery and deployment works. Then in the meantime, this pipeline is running. If you have any questions and any queries, please put it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. You can put into one-to-one me also, that is also fine. Or if you have any other questions, you can put it to everyone also. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have here. In the meantime, until this particular stuff is getting in. So we'll wait for this pipeline to be been done. So if I click on this details, right, you will see this particular events. These are the different events that was taken care. So deployment has a different life cycle, right? This is generally different life cycle. Block traffic, before block traffic. This is, think of this deployment as not for the first time. This deployment always takes care, even if you have something running already and you're making a new deployment on top of it, then what are the events and activities that needs to be taken care? Like in that case, you have to block the traffic so people is not using your application when you're making the changes. You have to ensure that you stop the application, download new bundle before install if you have any prerequisites. After install, start the application, do validation, and then at the last, allow the traffic. And after traffic, this is the case, right? So this includes that all of the things have been succeeded. If I go back to our pipeline, the pipeline is the 3 stage have been all succeed, right? So this is completed. What I'll do next is I'll quickly go back to the AWS console and I'll hit on this stuff. And I'll click on find celebrity. As I said, that I've intentionally made some mistake in my application. So I've not pointed to the right config file. Why? Because I want to demonstrate this is how exactly the application worked. I've simply put into the application and this my application worked. This is how as simple it is. But now if I want to show the continuous integration part of it. So what I'll do is, so far we have manually triggered the pipeline. Now I will make this pipeline run dynamically on any change. So I'll just make a simple change. I know that small changes, this file name was wrong. I've intentionally made that change. Okay, changing the config file name, and I'm saving this particular stuff. 3, 2, 1. Let's go to the pipeline. As you can see, the pipeline was automatically been triggered in a fraction of a second just now. Okay, we'll also see by default, if you see here, it will just also show you how exactly it got triggered. So who triggered this pipeline? This is an execution ID. This is what the owner based on which it got triggered. And if you see here at the bottom, you'll also see the source message. Changing the config file name, and this is the GitHub hash ID. So every GitHub has a unique ID, right? So this is the ID and this was the command. So for everything, any small changes also, this is how it is. That's exactly what CI/CD help you to follow the principle of DevOps. Make small changes, repeatable pattern, and have what things defined. So this time I don't have to do anything manually, right? Not even build the pipeline, not have anything. All the things are already there. I just make a changes and it's running. So think of that there are 10 developers working in your company. Every developers would use this pipeline. Previously, they were doing all the things manually. Now they will use this automated fashion. And they will be using this 24/5 across their entire day in, day out job to do this. For sure, you will love it as a developer, right? But you don't have to do anything. It's already defined. You just have to do your job, write a beautiful code, deliver into your GitHub code repository, and there will be a pipeline that will already been taken care. That is another reason why people always look for DevOps trained guys, because they can leverage automation and fast track the release, take time to market, right? Now I've released this entire application. If I want to make it live, it took me like 15 minutes max. Like I've just watched out my time. It took me max 15 minutes to deliver the entire application on a production scale with all the best practices, all things of CI/CD and everything, right? We'll wait for a few minutes for this application to get finished, and then we will look towards quickly recap and then signing off. So let's wait for this deployment. The deployment, if I go on the details, so as you can see, the deployment is already succeed. How I can verify that my deployment was succeeded? Simple. I will refresh. I'll upload the same. Find celebrity. We all know the answer is right. Yes, it's an image of Amitabh Bachchan, right? So it doesn't, I mean, the important part is not the application. The important part was the entire backend automation and the entire deployment, what it took place. Okay. So that's about a quick understanding how exactly what's DevOps, why should DevOps use DevOps, AWS services, and a complete end-to-end demonstration how exactly things works in a real life scenario. So this is same I have documented here. If I quickly just do a slide share. So this was the architecture where we targeted to a private EC2 instance and a load balancer. These are all the steps. If you recap, we have key pair. If it's a brand new account, do a key pair, launch the CloudFormation, configure an EC2 instance, CodeBuild you talk about, CodeDeploy, CodePipeline, all the steps what I have done on the console Same, I have documented it properly in my presentation so you can follow it, as well as the fix, right? After the second run, how you can automatically do it. You can make these changes and you can easily take care of that thing. As well as, let's say you don't have a GitHub account. You want to try this with a code commit. Then this is a way you can do it with the code commit also. I intentionally have done GitHub. Most of the people might have GitHub account, but if you don't have it, you can also give a try with the code commit also. The steps remains the same. Instead of GitHub, it will be code commit. That's all what I have from today's session, where we started with DevOps, why people should adopt DevOps, AWS services, and then followed by demo. That's all from today's session. I'm open for any questions,